That I'm so grateful that I've tried fundamental mastery because, even the word is like, oh wow, like me, a master. The fundamental mastery was really effective in just focusing more, I would say, like on the 3D, like the physical earthly plane, and especially with my business. My business has been expanding at or wanting to expand faster than I can keep up with it. It came at the perfect time in my life too. Like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, that type of thing too. So like learning about myself too, just a big key that was given to me. So the whole process, and especially learning that I'm kinesthetic, a kinesthetic learner, like, wow, was like, and it's that structure that is needed for like, super sensitive, kind of floaty up in the cloud type of people like me that, especially setting goals. Cause for whatever reason, for so long, I wasn't thinking that far ahead. And it's so important to dream big.
Having done the fundamental mastery program with you, I've watched you and heard you, and like just even by you giving me that update right now, how like you've got 8 libraries where you're going to be coming up in October, and then you're so busy that you might have to scale back on one, and it's like that is awesome because if we think about the progress you've made from when we started with the first step of fundamental mastery and
Yeah.
then, to where you are now, it's phenomenal.
I had 0 jobs. My business has been expanding at or wanting to expand faster than I can keep up with it in some ways. So I'm like just trying to like juggle it and then have the other 2 jobs. And I mean, then the libraries, and a lot of people have been reaching out for readings as well. I also have some parties booked.
Oh my gosh. I mean, your business has gone from zero to like grown immensely. I mean, to hear everything that you have going on is phenomenal. And this has been what, maybe a year that we've been doing the fundamental mastery?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I feel like it came at the perfect time in my life too. Like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, that type of thing too. So I was so ready to just, finally become productive, or in my eyes, feel much more productive in a way that was more acceptable for me. And I feel like it really has, opened up the road for where I want to be. I'm still not quite there. I have, some roads to take and things to learn, but I feel like it's been such an amazing adventure so far. A little, overwhelming at times just because it feels like it all happened. It really did happen so fast. I'm so glad.
You were really good about having that consistency, and when we would set, and I think again, I keep going back to the grace where, you were honest. And when there were certain actions that we had put into place based on what you thought at the time with what you knew, those that weren't
Mm,
working for you, you were honest to say, I didn't do this because I didn't get to it. And then when it didn't happen again, you were just honest about it. It's like, okay, well, then maybe the action isn't really aligned with what it is that you're wanting. Right. So
right.
I think the fact that you were
Yeah.
able to give yourself that grace and say, just be completely honest and say, nope, I didn't accomplish it by this target date. And I didn't accomplish that by this, but I did this, and this extra that I didn't think I was going to do, And I think that's the nice piece of the flexibility is where you just can say, it doesn't matter if I didn't check off this box because I found something different that got me to where I wanted to go instead. So that's such a big piece too. And I think that was part of knowing you and yourself and, growing in that way. So you could make those decisions.
It's that structure that is needed for like, super sensitive, kind of floaty up in the cloud type of people like me that like having that structure really is important, I think, to be able not only to look back on, but to see, okay, there's other things happening after this too. But they don't all have to be right now, because that's something I also, I'm an Aries sun, so sometimes I try to get on the horse and go off in 8 different directions. Been a big thing in my life, but kind of scaling it down and being more prioritizing and realistic was a huge benefit for me. And even just speaking it aloud and putting it on paper, like seeing it in that way, I think was very powerful and potent. Like learning about myself too, just a big key that was given to me. So the whole process, and especially learning that I'm kinesthetic, a kinesthetic learner, like, wow, was like, oh, and now I talk about that with other people too. Like, I'm kinesthetic. I have to write things out or else they don't get ingrained. But anytime I do that, now I know. So I was
That
grateful, I mean, for aspects of it too, but it was especially setting goals, because for whatever reason, for so long, I wasn't thinking that far ahead. And it's so important to dream big. So it's so wild to think back on to where I was then. And now I'm like, okay, out the door. I'm up at like 8:30 in the morning. Like I would, and I think I remember like a lot of the themes was like, okay, how am I going to get this done? Like from my bed. I don't know if you
right.
remember that, like even the research aspect, because that I was doing the podcast, thinking, exploring, which isn't off the table. It's just like kind of off to the side right now. But like
Yeah.
now it's okay. Like I'm gonna sleep in the bed and I'm gonna do my work, go around the world.
Isn't
So
it
it's
so amazing? And you know what? And I
cool.
love the fact that you have given yourself the grace to say, my original action plan and my original goal included doing a podcast. But then
Right.
it's kind of shifted. And what I love is the awareness that comes from this, because you didn't have the awareness to even really know that there were other steps and other actions that needed to be taken first. And so
Right.
now, right now, maybe what needs to happen is you'll either revisit it and you'll go back to doing the podcast, or you won't.
Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. There's no pressure. There's no pressure. And it's
Absolutely.
just, yes, the fundamental mastery has this like beautiful foundation and a structure to it, but it doesn't hold you hostage into a certain way of doing things. Or, oh shoot, I said I was going to do this, I have to continue. Or I said this was going to be my goal or outcome, I can't change that. That's not what it is. And that's why it's so flexible. It's a firm foundation, but within the structure of it, there's so much flexibility. And I think you're the perfect example of that. How, in the beginning, when we were doing your action steps, you were like, oh, can I do this from my bed? Can I do this, and what time? And even watching you evolve with the action steps, like, how we have to do a structure for your support system, right? Like it might be a
Right.
place,
Right.
it might actually be a schedule or a routine. And I remember in the beginning, you were like, well, I do my best work between, like, we'll say 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. So you were scheduling those times to do
Yes, I
stuff.
was. Oh yeah. And I
And
got stuff
now,
done too, somehow miraculously. I was like productive, but it was, I don't know, it wasn't my highest and best self. I was also very lonely all the time because like people are on different clocks typically. So
right,
yeah.
exactly. So that's so amazing. So that's the whole fundamental mastery piece, which I love. And I love just watching everything evolve for you, because you've really put into practice what we've talked about, and everything that the program has to offer. So think that's such a nice way to say it, is having that key to learning about yourself. And I think that's the piece that oftentimes, and myself included, when I find myself getting stuck in the mire and I'm struggling and I can't figure it out, I realize that I've lost a part of myself, or it's a part of myself that may have shifted. And I
Right.
need to reacquaint myself with myself. And so
Mhm.
this allows us to really be aligned with who we truly are. Like I love at the beginning when you said that whole piece about the kinesthetic piece, right? And that is huge, because
Ah,
I remember that you were taking actions, and your actions were not aligned with who you really were as far as being kinesthetic, right?
and
So
then I get down on myself because I couldn't do the things I thought I needed to do. And now it's like, I mean, I still, learning discipline is a big part of my theme in life too. But I feel like, especially like even just being able to be more of a morning person, really without even an alarm these days, it's just like, okay, I'm up. Let's have a day.